G'day folks, let's talk about war.
In your hands rests our future. If we do not want to die together in war, we must learn to live together in peace.
So, wars are no longer effectively fought with militaries and weapons and violence, for better or worse. That's not the 21st century geopolitical landscape works. Violence doesn't actually accomplish anything if you have economic sway over global trade. That's where real power is. That's how nations actually get other nations to do what they want. It's all just money now. Militaries and weapons and violence don't serve much of a purpose, and violent warfare doesn't accomplish a whole lot, at least not in comparison to trade warfare. And there's evidence in Iran, and I'm going to go over the US and China as examples of approaching this new geopolitical landscape. The superpower of the 20th century, there's a few superpowers in the 20th century. The biggest superpower of the 21st century, the one that came on top come the year 2000, was the USA. They finished World War II. They pretty much won World War II with Manhattan Project, put them on top of the world. The US dollar dominates global markets. Undeniably, they are the king, and they have an enormous deal of sway over global trade with the US dollar. But they also have a massively overextended military, and that is a relic of their 20th century dominance. It is, because they just keep funneling money into their military. It's stationed all over the world, and overextended militaries don't typically end well for large empires and superpowers. But that's how it is. They do have the US dollar. That is keeping them afloat in the new geopolitical landscape of trade warfare, and basically the fact that as of 21st century, global trade and your influence over global trade is the greatest kind of power any country can have. So US maintains that power with the dollar. However, they are, in a massive deficit, although this doesn't affect the dollar for as long as they can outgrow it, which seems to be up until now, and that is succeeding for them at the moment. They are pissing off all of their trade partners with tariffs, and Iran is incentivizing the trade of oil in yuan, in the Chinese currency, so that this kind of weakens, undercuts, undermines the US dollar. And while it's going to take a long time for really anyone like BRICS or EU or China to actually overthrow the US dollar, this is long-term damage that it's not going to recover from. I can't say the 22nd century global trade will be dominated by the US. That's actually a bit of a stretch. There would be very specific circumstances that leads to that, and it could really go either way at this point, which you couldn't say 20 years ago. But one of the biggest reasons for this deficit, aside from bailing out rich people after, financial crisis is caused by rich people, a big part of why they have such a big deficit is because they fund their military like crazy. Like, it's by a long shot the most heavily funded military, and that's kept them like dominating the space of warfare, and that's why they have so many bases all around the world. So many other countries were relying on America's military, which again in 2025 with the whole Greenland thing is incentivizing other countries and allies to not be so reliant on the US's military. So again, that just undercuts and undermines the point of them and what they've been working for. But That's the way it is. And overextended militaries do not typically end well. There are examples such as Rome and Britain, Napoleonic France, the Soviet Union, the Ottoman Empire, the Spanish Empire. That's not just the examples I had written down. That's a few more, and it's still like not even half the story. But yeah, overextended militaries typically end in collapse of empires. But you know, the landscape is different now. It's not. We have industrialized. We have advanced technology. We can survey the entire globe with a network of satellites that you can't easily attack. So overextended militaries are still a problem. They still threaten empires, but it's an easier disaster to mitigate now as opposed to 2,000 years ago in Rome, or a few hundred years ago Napoleonic France. It's more mitigatable now, but it's still not ideal. Now, China. China specializes in planning in the long term. They have for a while now, and the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, knows it will be in power for a very long time because they control state media and elections. So there's pros and cons to this. Obviously, the pros are that they can do astounding things with this ability to long-term plan. With democratic countries where, you know, you have leaders coming in and out, swapping and changing and undoing the thing the last guy did, and it's really, really difficult. You need sort of a citizens' consensus or a long-running government to actually put in place a really strong foundation for future planning. But China can do this. And it obviously comes with its cons. It's not good for free speech. There's no open media or freedom of expression. The media is completely controlled and their elections are not entirely fair. But the Chinese Communist Party gets stuff done. And so China has been rapidly industrializing over the last 50 years. They are now the production hub of the world. Every country relies on China so much that, yeah, they have a military and really kind of stupid territorial quabbles with the China Reds, the South Chinese Sea. But other than that, all of their power comes from trade. No one's going to start shit with China. If China wants to move in on Taiwan, if America isn't like being run by a beef-headed moron, then America's not really going to do anything. They need China. They need Chinese trade. They are reliant on it. And I'm not just saying like American politicians or American people. American billionaires and business owners and conglomerates need China so much they will not let their politicians do anything massively stupid. I don't think. But yeah, so China has that real power over America and American trade. If America wants to be a very wealthy country full of all these billionaires and private equity firms that just own everything and want to do everything the cheapest way possible, then they rely on China to be what they are. So China has really flipped the script on America there. They have so much power with their ability to trade, and yeah, they got a decent army. It's a decent army. It's not overextended. I think they only have the Djibouti. I'm going to pronounce this nation wrong. Djibouti base, which is sort of a lot of military bases in that little country. But that's China's only foreign military base, so they're not really overextended. The budget for it's sizable, it's decent, but it's not massive. It's not close to America's, and really they don't need it. They just sort of have it as a deterrent, which I'll get to why militaries exist now, and now it's mostly deterrence. But yeah, China's been planning ahead, and they can and may try to dominate the world without firing a single explosive. They might just try and grow everyone's reliance on their products, on their trade, on their, labor, really. So China has massive power in this new geopolitical landscape. It's crazy. If you want to define superpowers by their ability China is huge, and as far as 22nd century trade goes, they might be the superpower. They might be the ones in charge. There's no telling. That's a very long way away. But if America's not going to dominate it, which they're in a tough state. As far as long-term planning goes, the USA does not look like it's going to maintain its superpower status for another 50 to 100 years. That's a big ask. China, on the other hand, they're thinking long-term, they're planning ahead. And yeah. Iran is 2026. United States launched a war with Iran. Iran is not, it's not a small country, but it's not a massive country. Like there are huge countries and empires that I could be talking about in regards to this geopolitical landscape, but this is a specific example of something that happened recently. The US went to war with Iran. I'm sure you heard, unless you're watching this for historical reference, in 20 years' time, the US launched a war with Iran. Not good reason behind it. Possibly not any reason behind it. I think it was on behalf of Israel. I'm not going to get into the complexities of the Middle East. I did consider doing a video on that, only to realize how immensely, mind-bogglingly complex it is. It is insane. I might do a video on my opinions regarding religion and religion's interference in government and freedom and persecution and apartheid and all the terrible, terrible, terrible things and colonialism. The Middle East has been, it's so complicated. I don't know where to start. I don't want to I don't accidentally say anything wrong in this video that I've not scripted to talk about the Middle East. The script for this video is about geopolitical landscapes and how trade is the new warfare and it's more powerful than militaries. I'm not gonna prod at the Middle East. So America launched strikes on Iran, and if you want to prod as to who is winning and who is losing, it's really hard to say, because while America, the land America owns, its civilians and its infrastructure, has not taken a scratch really from Iran. Yeah, Iran's attacked its military and its allies in that local region, including Dubai, which interested me because Dubai is so heavily reliant on tourism, wealthy tourists, to maintain its economy and really its existence. So a single bomb touching Dubai is really, really devastating for its economy. So that is huge. That's way more than just attacking like civilians or civilian infrastructure. That is a full-on assault on an economy. That's huge. And Iran's taken hits. Like America has smashed it. They have throttled the land of Iran and their military bases, and they just keep dropping bombs. And Israel is also dropping bombs on Iran, and they're copping stuff, and they're losing civilians and civilian infrastructure, and it's tragic and it's a war crime. But you know, Iran hasn't had a whole lot of ways to strike back, except economically, where there was the Dubai thing, and obviously the Hormuz Strait has been closed for a while now, and that has really punched global trade in the nuts. That is massive. Ever since Iran closed the Hormuz Strait, every country on earth except Israel was begging the US to put things back to the status quo before they started this war. So while America has not taken any big military hits, they have taken huge geopolitical hits because of Iran's apparent sway over global trade and the Hormuz Strait specifically, and oil prices. And Iran is incentivizing other countries to trade oil with Chinese yuan, which is another punch at America, not with a military, but with global economics and trade. That's huge. So Iran is actually far more powerful than its military. Like, way more. It's just they're thinking strategically, they're thinking smartly, they're really looking at the world from a 21st century perspective and looking at the power of global trade and economics over militaries. Whereas the US thought, we have a massive military, they don't, we can just beat them. And that is pretty much the level of strategic intelligence that the current administration of the United States possesses. So, of course, we ended up where we are. Peace talks. They're trying to mitigate the disasters of this war, both sides. It's arguable as to who has the upper hand here, but America has caved by all of the pressure of almost every nation on earth going, stop, you have to return everything to the status quo. We all need our oil. So, yeah, as far as sway over global trade goes, Iran really kicked America in the nuts, despite the fact that the US has all of the military sway and power. Yeah, I mean, it helps Iran that they have a bit of a military. It's not pathetic. They know they're in a geopolitically tense region. They do have a military. They do know that they need a military, and they're surrounded by mountains. It's not an easy terrain to march into. That's why there's been no troops on the ground either. So, yeah, Iran did have a bit of an upper hand as opposed to where traditional military conflict stands. I'm going to say this. I'm going to weigh in on this. This probably has nothing to do with it, but it's worth saying. I think this is worth saying. So, one of the biggest excuses that the US is using to go to war with Iran was that whole nuclear business. I don't think it's nuclear. I think they're just doing it because Israel wants them to. But let's go with it. Let's say that Iran was developing a nuke. They had a nuke. They were developing nukes. They were getting ready for a nuclear program. There's still a 0% chance of them bombing anyone, let alone the United States of America, because they know what mutually assured destruction is. That's still a thing. You don't have to be signed on the UN's nuclear agreement to know what mutual destruction is. Iran knows. Every country knows if you touch the United States soil with nuclear material, they will obliterate you and every inch of your land. Iran knows this. It's suicidal. It is moronic for Iran to go to throw a nuke at the US. It's idiotic. The idea of it's idiotic. They would never do that. They have nothing to gain from that. By doing that, they basically inviting the US to irradiate the entire country. They're just giving them a pass to do so. As far as mad goes, I think Trump is about as mad as it gets. So I don't think the US was ever in danger of being nuked by Iran. I don't think anyone was, really, because of mutually assured destruction goals. So that's really a stupid reason. There's no proof they were developing nukes. But even if they were, mutually assured destruction is a thing, and you can tell by how Iran has been playing this war that they are not stupid. They are not stupid. They think strategically and evidently wisely. And sure, most countries have militaries that they continue to invest in because the economy is just an invisible, made-up concept. It's a set of rules that uphold civility and cooperation amongst the population. But military action and violent war threatens that population. And so, the military kind of upholds the economy to a certain degree, but the economy is where the real power is. And politicians aren't typically trained throughout their career nowadays to deal with invasion or military action or militant dominion. They're trained, their experience, why they were elected is because they can deal with economies. They deal with economics. That's why people get elected now. That's what leaders specialize in. That's where they come from. It's dealing with economics, and that's just the language that they all speak now. So militaries don't have as much power as economic trade, not even close. And it's because politicians don't speak that language anymore. They're all trained, they're all elected on their ability to manage economies realistically nowadays. And I wholeheartedly believe that a nation nowadays could take over the world, can dominate other nations with nothing more than trade and aid. That's all you need now. Trade and aid. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. And I'm glad that the geopolitical landscape reflects that to some degree now, although a lot of trade war stuff is just hitting people's wallets instead of, winning them over with help. 20th century tensions are still lingering, and we still see violent conflicts as a result of that. But the main goal of armies and militaries now, it's literally just to make peace the cheapest option. It's not to dominate or destroy other militaries. Its entire goal is just to make such endeavors too expensive, not really worth it. It's all just economics now. And with the idea of autonomous militaries, war becomes either pure war crimes, attacking civilian infrastructure and civilians, or it just becomes throwing money at robots to fight other robots, which is, what is the point? There's no point to that. I don't think any leader seeking war would be satisfied with the latter, and that's concerning. So autonomous militaries are a weird idea. I don't know how that world will play out. I don't know how violent conflict in that world, I'm afraid I do know how violent conflict in that world might play out, and it's grim. I don't like the idea of that. And yeah, that's it. Make trade routes, not war. No, that's terrible. That sounds stupid. I don't like that.